Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shobh. On the program this evening, as the BJP slams the Aam Aadmi Party for its new schemes which offer free or significantly subsidized water and electricity to certain segments, we look at the larger picture. Do these short-term gains for citizens in Delhi translate into significant debt tomorrow? And is Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's subsidy bonanza being done with one eye on the general elections? Also coming up, the BJP raises uncomfortable questions for the Gandhi family on a day the government officially cancels the VVIP helicopter deal, where middlemen allegedly paid off family members of a former air chief and perhaps others as well. But first, our top story. Does the Aam Aadmi Party's election promise, or do their election promises on delivering free water and subsidized electricity genuinely help Delhi citizens in the long run? Does this make economic sense? And is all of this being hastily announced with one eye on the forthcoming general elections, where the Aam Aadmi Party wants to make a national mark?
किसी भी जिम्मेदार सरकार की ये जिम्मेदारी होती है कि वो एक लाइफलाइन वाटर अपने नागरिकों को प्रोवाइड करे.
Arvind Kejriwal defending his government's decision to provide free water and subsidized power in the capital. Both the measures expected to cost the government approximately 350 crore rupees. The big question, does this subsidy bonanza make the Aam Aadmi Party popular or populist? Today's senior BJP leader Arun Jaitley questioned the move. He said more subsidies lead to more taxes. Subsidies are short-term gains but bring debt tomorrow. A subsidy may prove counterproductive for more vulnerable sections. The water subsidy has divided Delhi into 4 categories. The real challenge is to connect people to water supply system.
You are using my money, which I gave as taxpayers' money for the government to proceed with various developmental works. That money now is being given to power companies as subsidy to show to me that I am being helped, though I am being deprived.
गरीब और मिडिल क्लास के लोअर मिडिल क्लास के लोगों के लिए अपने बिजली के बिल भर पाना लगभग असंभव होता जा रहा था, तो उनको तुरंत कुछ राहत देने की जरूरत थी, तो इसीलिए तुरंत ये घोषणा की गई है. बाकी जब ऑडिट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा तो सारा दूध का दूध पानी का पानी सबके जवाब.
Providing cheaper power and water were one of the big promises by the AAP. The party had even asked people not to pay huge power bills. And when connections were cut, Arvind Kejriwal even went to people's homes to reconnect the power supply. The message and formula worked for the AAP, which made a spectacular debut, winning 28 seats. So, are the subsidies only for the Aam Aadmi, or are they part of a carefully thought out strategy for the national polls in just a few months from now?
So you don't see the Aam Aadmi Party as part of the larger politics of alliance. आपको पता है कि बहुत सारी सरकारें आजकल
वो सत्ता की तोड़फोड़ की राजनीति है.
आप नहीं उसमें विश्वास करते अलायंस पॉलिटिक्स?
वो करके फिर हमें सत्ता में आने के लिए थोड़ी आए हम यहाँ पे. अपने अपने कैरियर, यहाँ कैरियर बनाने नहीं आए, कैरियर छोड़ के आए हम लोग.
Interestingly, Mr. Kejriwal today indirectly received support from Congress MP Sanjay Nirupam, who wrote to the Maharashtra Chief Minister asking for a probe into the Mumbai power distribution companies and a reduction in power tariffs.
दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट बगैर अपने रेगुलेटर से कंसल्ट किए इस प्रकार का निर्णय ले सकती है, तो हमारी सरकार को भी करना चाहिए.
It's the Aam Aadmi who turned out in large numbers to vote for the Arvind Kejriwal government. Now, as the government repays the Aam Aadmi, the big question is how much of it is being done with an eye on the Lok Sabha polls. In New Delhi, Siddharth Pandey for NDTV.
So what really is the intention of the Aam Aadmi Party? Is it genuinely for Delhi's citizens and nothing more than that? Or are these also being pushed through at this stage with an eye on the general elections coming up? Joining me to debate this, Nirmala Sitharaman, spokesperson of the BJP, Atishi Marlena, member of the Aam Aadmi Party, Professor Ashish Nandi, the well-known sociologist, R.K. Pachori, the Director General of the Energy Research Institute, Dr. Surjit Bhalla, also joins us, as also Sanjay Jha, the spokesperson of the Congress. We've got a power-packed panel. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Atishi, let me come to you first. It seems that the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal is in a hurry. In fact, just yesterday, he seemed to indicate that I need to get as much done as possible because he doesn't know if tomorrow he's going to be around in power. Firstly, a political question. Is that a real worry now, or do you assume that Congress support is taken for granted as of now, this evening as we speak?
Vishnu, what can I say about it? I think our colleague from the Congress would be better placed to answer that question, because yes, I think while the Congress at one level said they would give us unconditional support, from the very next day you could hear different sounds emanating from different leaders. Some said they would be in opposition, some said something else, some said we could withdraw support. And yesterday Sheila Dikshit has also said that if all the promises are not fulfilled in 60 days, which they could not fulfill in 15 years, they might have to withdraw support from us. So yes, the messages are very mixed. And
has there been any communication, Atishi, between you and the Congress in the last 24 hours?
The only communication we have had with the Congress has been the 18-point letter that we gave to them and released to the media at the same time. And we've made it very clear right from the beginning that we are not in an alliance with the Congress. We are here to fulfill our 18-point agenda for the city of Delhi. And I think we have made it amply clear in the past 48 hours, which is just as long as our government has been in power, that we are serious about our agenda.
Sanjay Jha, is it absolutely clear at this stage that tomorrow the Congress will be extending outside support to the Aam Aadmi Party? Is there any are there any second thoughts?
Well, I don't think anybody's heard anything to the contrary as of today. But the key point, just to respond to the statement of the Aam Aadmi Party's spokesperson, is the fact that when we are talking about subsidies and the extraordinary haste with which they have announced them, I think to my mind is slightly astonishing, because you have to always look at your fiscal situation. And I think the AAP party has inherited an extremely strong state in terms of finances. I think the charge that is being made that we did not do anything in 15 years and therefore they are trying to do that is economically absurd and practically preposterous, because the government won 3 terms based on performance. And while there is always an unfinished task, the fact that they're inheriting substantial budgets of over 3,500 crores tells you that we did perform well, and we respect the verdict of the people in Delhi though. Now the critical point, Vishnu, is that whether it's water or electricity, it may be in your manifesto, but I want to give you one pretty strange anomaly here. They talk about actually doing an audit of the electricity distribution companies, and yet they have already committed on the 50% reduction in tariff. So it's like prejudging the entire audit process itself. So, I think end of day, there is a regulatory mechanism who decides on the tariff. So
Sanjay, let me ask Atishi about that.
They have already made a commitment. So these are little inconsistencies that they will have to explain to the people of Delhi.
Wow, it's unbelievable in a sense for people perhaps watching this program that a day before the Aam Aadmi Party proves its strength on the floor of the State Assembly, the Congress, which is its primary supporter, external support, is still raising these important questions. Where does this leave the people of Delhi? But why don't you answer that question directly? And I think let me add to that. 1,268 crores is the projected fiscal deficit for 2013-2014. How does the Aam Aadmi Party intend to actually to finance all of these schemes, whether it's electricity or water?
Yeah, let's look at them one by one. I think also because in some ways the media has also highlighted some aspects of our policies, whereas ignoring some others. So let's look at it one by one. I think if you read our manifesto carefully, we have carefully outlined a plan for our water policy, which yes, includes tariff reduction. But on the whole, the long-term plan is to improve the water system in Delhi, to bring transparency into the Jal Board. Right now, there is supposedly 40% loss amongst the water that is supplied. Where is that water going? There are areas in Delhi that are connected by pipeline. They are not getting any water. Where is that water going? So yes, we have a long-term plan, and that is the plan that we intend to implement. Similarly, in electricity.
But why didn't you implement that first?
Vishnu, we've been in power for 48 hours.
No, but as a strategy, why didn't you implement that first? Reaching out to people with no water rather than announcing free water.
Absolutely, because, and we will, and I think that is the next thing that we are going to do. But the process involved in that is that first we will actually need to bring about some transparency into the Delhi Jal Board, which actually, if you go to look into it, is one of the most opaque bodies in the Delhi government.
Right.
The Delhi Jal Board does not know how much water they get, how much water is treated, how much water goes into which water zone in Delhi. So first of all, we'll actually have to put bulk meters in all these parts of the city to actually understand this water supply and where this supposed 40%
But it's okay to offer free water even before you do that.
Absolutely.
Let me just ask, let me put that across to Nirmala Sitharaman. Is this your biggest concern? That, and Atishi will come back to immediately after that. That free water is all very well. Everybody wants free water or greatly subsidized electricity. But is this necessarily the way forward in resolving Delhi's interests? And to many, Delhi's interests is get water out to the lakhs of people who still don't have water. Free power can happen subsequently. What about massive water losses, water theft which takes place, the tanker mafia? So it's a SOP first, and then all of what Atishi is mentioning later on.
That's right. The point is, both the parties, that is the minority government which Aam Aadmi Party is running, supported by, here a lot of words being used. We have asked for support, they are giving support, unconditional support. No, we are supporting the manifesto points only, not the government. With all that taken on board, there's a heavy confusion about what kind of a alliance relationship prevails between these two parties. They are going around telling everybody different things, and the public is going to keep quiet for some time. All of us will have to keep on watching. But the fact remains that the alliance is still defined in very grey language. That said, you're right. Any government which comes on a mandate, minority, majority, will have to look at it more comprehensively and look at it from the way in which you're able to improve on efficiency, delivery, stop theft, and genuinely those who are suffering for want of water will have to be reached. And I agree also partly saying you want to give water for those, and because it's a promise you want to fulfill it. But the fact remains that they have not put on board for public to understand what exactly are the kind of things. This is the first ever time I'm hearing any member of the Aam Aadmi Party tell us, yes, we've thought about these thoughts. Groundwater table is depleted. Yes. There are a lot of people who are using not just the pipe connection but also bore wells. There are people who are sitting with nothing at all. You rightly referred to tanker mafia. My argument is that if all these are laid bare, yes, we'll read your manifesto, we've read your manifesto, and the election was fought on that. But you have not given us an idea of how you're going to tackle the whole thing. Water procurement from the point of view where I remember one of our party members very clearly saying when Malhotra ji was the Chief Minister, a whole lot of work was done at that time, and the water resources from Haryana or anywhere else which have to be used for the benefit of Delhi has not even been accessed till now. So there are a whole lot of things, and on power too.
We'll just discuss power in a while.
Therefore, here, much before you also called for an audit.
Yes.
Much before you're really getting the inputs from the audit, because there are a lot of technical information from the way in which...
You're not waiting for the audit is the point that you're mentioning.
Yes, because ultimately the government is responsible to manage, run, give connectivity and deliver.
It almost seems, ma'am, in some instances the Congress and the BJP are saying the same thing when it comes to the Aam Aadmi Party.
We are saying it from the point of view of having proved. Take the example of Madhya Pradesh, where every district is being given 24/7 connectivity.
Yes.
Similarly, in Gujarat, we've already turned a state which doesn't even have coal or hydropower into an energy surplus state.
Okay, ma'am.
So there are issues where we have very clearly proven track record with which our states are doing very well and giving 24/7
and perhaps if we have time, we'll refer to
when
that
we are talking, when we are talking from experience.
Dr. Bhalla, you had a point. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, basically I wanted to make 2 points. First, in your preamble, you said that, is the AAP party in a hurry? Do they have an eye on the national elections, etc.? And I think, pardon my saying so, you are misunderstanding the problem. As the AAP spokesman clearly stated, this is very much in their manifesto. So I think it is very much a question of ideology. This is the ideology of AAP. Whether the national elections were 3 months now or a year from now, they would have done exactly what they have done. Now coming to the ideology, and the question I have for the AAP spokesperson is the following. That look, you are a representative of the Aam Aadmi, as your title of your party states. Now, wouldn't it have made a lot more sense that in your manifesto, you state that, listen, one of our first tasks is going to be to provide water, to provide piped water connections to the 20% of the Delhi populace that does not have it.
We do say
that's
the first point in our manifesto.
You're giving a subsidy? Let me finish. Why is it, how is the tanker mafia going to be affected by your giving a subsidy to the middle class and to the rich? Please explain how any of your objectives that you have stated,
so let it answer those 2 points.
Tanker mafia, etc., will be achieved by giving a massive subsidy to the rich.
Okay, Atishi, answer those 2 points before I come across to my other panelists. Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to correct Mr. Sujit Bharla. We are not providing a subsidy to the rich. We clearly saying the fact that the subsidy is only to those who are using up to 700 litres of water. Anyone who uses even a single litre more than that pays for the entire amount. We will even hike the tariffs for those who are using more than 700 litres of water. So this is actually a targeted subsidy. Now, as far as targeted subsidies go, subsidies have often been targeted according to, okay, above poverty line, below poverty line. But we have clear experiences of the fact that that kind of targeting doesn't work. So our targeting is based on socio-economic consumption patterns. And families which come from less affluent families tend to use less electricity, less water. Therefore, our subsidy, which in electricity I must clarify is only a short-term subsidy till we put our long-term plans into place, which we have started. And in water as well, the free water supply is only to those who have lower consumption patterns. So the subsidy is not to the affluent.
This is not true.
Secondly, with the tanker mafia actually comes in the second step of our water plans. And yes, by the way, I would like to sort of comment on the fact that everyone is today talking about the tanker mafia is because of the Aam Aadmi Party. We are the ones who have brought this issue up in a very big way. So how we are going to deal with the tanker mafia is to first of all bring about far more transparency in the Delhi Jal Board. Just one more point I would like to respond to Ms. Sitaraman's point is that in fact, in addition to what you say about the falling water table, we have actually outlined in our manifesto a very serious plan for citywide rainwater harvesting and actually revival of a lot of the surface water bodies.
We'll try and discuss that in a while.
One second.
Yeah, just go ahead very briefly. Dr. Bharla, yes, go ahead.
Very briefly, what is being missed out by the AAP spokesperson is that the need of the water is not very elastic with respect to income. And secondly, it's on a household basis, and 1 person and 2 person and 3 person and 4 person households are more than 50% of the households in Delhi, and they will not be using 700 per household. So therefore, to say that this is targeted, it is completely erroneous and goes against every fact that we know about water consumption.
Okay,
just a moment,
Atishi. I wanted to bring in Dr. Pachauri, who's been waiting very patiently. Dr. Pachauri, the argument made by many is that the amount of water, just under 700 litres, is huge. Now, if you look at the numbers, this is more than the per capita amount which is used in many parts, many countries in the world. That, for example, in Germany, in Denmark, right, the threshold is well above the per capita consumption level in Western countries, is what the Aam Aadmi Party. So, is this expensive, not just in terms of cost, but also in terms of saving energy?
Well, you know, I think there are certain naive assumptions in this policy, if I may say. And I would like to apply the acid test by seeing whether the party changes its policy on the basis of analysis and hard evidence. They've probably done this with the best of intentions. I'd like to be charitable with that view. But certainly, it's going to lead to much more inefficient use of water. And what would also happen is you'll find a lot of tampering of meters. And how are you going to catch all those people? In the case of electricity, may I submit that there again it would be far more productive in my view to promote solar rooftop schemes by which, for instance, the amount of money that you're paying as a subsidy could be provided a much smaller fraction of that to promote solar rooftops, and that will add to the amount of electricity that's going to be available. So my submission is the long-term impacts of that, of these policies, would be inefficient use both of water as well as electricity. And I would submit that water is a scarce resource for this country, and there's an enormous amount of wastage. Now, what this is going to promote, particularly in a household which has, let's say, 2 individuals, there's going to be ample water available. What are they going to do? Where is the incentive for them to use it efficiently? But here again, let me say again, I would like to see this party, this government succeed by getting good, solid analysis, and on the basis of that, revising its policies. And I'm happy to hear that there's a plan to use rainwater harvesting and so on. I would have liked some of those measures to have been announced also, because otherwise, clearly this seems like a short-sighted, populist kind of measure. And that is not desirable at all.
There are several points I would like to respond to. First of all, Dr. Pachauri, I would like to tell you that, as I repeated, we have been in power for just 2-3 days. So all our measures would be announced one by one. About Vishnu, about the point that you raised that it's a huge amount.
But may I say something? I'm not questioning that. All I'm saying is the priority and the order in which you're making these announcements. There are far more important things that perhaps could have been announced.
I think we need to wait for the next 10 days for the government to actually function to get an idea what's happening. But Vishnu, responding to your point about whether we are talking about excess water, I would actually like to challenge that, because the countries that you're talking about are not tropical countries. The amount of water that is considered to be appropriate for a decent or dignified life are set differently by the World Health Organization for which parts of the world people live in. And for urban tropical settings, the amount of water the WHO recommends is 140 to 150 litres. And whatever Dr. Bhalla might say, I would like to tell him that according to the Delhi HDR report, the average family size in Delhi is of 5 members. So therefore, the figure actually comes from that calculation. If you multiply 150 by 5, that is where we get the 700 number from. I would concede the point that Dr. Pachauri is raising, that yes, if we do come to... So far, we have based our calculations on certain analysis that we did have. If we do find some other evidence, of course, we would be willing to look at the quantum of water. Because in our opinion, when we set the target at the fact that at 701 you would pay for the whole amount, that is actually a conservation measure. Because then people would actually try and not use more than 700 litres of water. And I would also, I mean, what can I say? I would really request you to read our manifesto, because we've actually given a target that for 2020 we would have 20% electricity with solar energy.
Okay, Nirmala ji, go ahead.
Just very quickly.
Yes.
The question of priorities which Dr. Pachauri raised is the point on which all of us are coming up with different arguments. The fact remains that in spite of this announcement, you're still having a lot of families who have absolutely no connection for water at all. I would have rather had, basing by their populist announcements to them getting the first beneficiary for getting any water at all, rather than say slabs, 700 meter, whatever, 701 you will be charged for the whole thing. The similar approach is what is guiding them as regards electricity. Now here again, 400 units. I hope it doesn't lead to a situation where, you know, tampering of meter happens, just to show that it doesn't, you know, their meter, any one meter doesn't show more than 401, and then you're going to have every other inspection happening to say where is the pilferage happening.
Okay.
A holistic approach, however difficult it is to implement, would be a far more responsible approach, because also this question which Dr. Harshavardhan has raised is whose money is going where, and eventually what are we going to be left out with, because ultimately citizens, everybody, particularly when it comes to question of water and electricity, every citizen needs it.
Okay.
You can't now say there is a rich citizen who can afford captive power generator and therefore I won't give it. These are basic, absolute, essential facilities, and that every government has to give it. And therefore you have to first give it to nobody who gets it, meaning no water at all in a household, prioritize them rather than do this.
Get onto these schemes.
That's right.